Hola, bienvenidos a Sofos todos esta noche. Welcome to Sofos and to this really special event. Tonight we have the presentation of a really pretty book that is called Take Me With You When You Go from David Levithan and Jennifer Niven, who are this night with us. Hi guys, welcome.
Hello.
So much.
Hello, how are you doing?
Great. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you both here. We had a previous event with Jennifer last year, and it was really, really awesome. And now having David here as well, thank you so much for being here.
That's a pleasure.
So I will start talking a little bit about both of you. So Jennifer Niven is the #1 New York Times and international best-selling author of All the Bright Places, Holding Up the Universe, and Breathless, in addition to several books for adults. Her books have been translated into over 75 languages and have won literary awards around the world. When she isn't working on multiple books and TV projects, Jennifer also oversees Germ, a literary web magazine for high school age and beyond. Jennifer divides her time between coastal Georgia and Paris with her husband and literary cats. Welcome, Jennifer, again.
Thank you.
And David Levithan is a many acclaimed novel, includes Every Day, Two Boys Kissing, and Boy Meets Boy. Some of these best-selling collaborations include Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist and the Dash and Lily series, both reading with Rachel Cohn and Will Grayson. Will Grayson reading with John Green. David received a Margaret A. Edwards Award for his contribution to young adult literature. So welcome, David, as well. So we will start with this interview. I will talk about a little bit, Take Me With You When You Go. This is a story of two siblings, Bea and Ezra. Both of their lives start changing when Bea decides to run away from home without a notice and just leaving an email for Ezra to find. This is how they start questioning their lives so far and how to finally make a big change with their lives. I have to say it's a really exciting book. I was every end of email, I was like, what is going to happen next? It was really exciting. And also I have to say a little bit sad for the situation that they are going through and that we are go finding out little bit by little bit. But overall, it's a really amazing book. I really like the subject that you two touch in this book. And the edition is just so pretty. I really loved it, I have to say it. So I know that people always wonder, how does it work to make a book with another author? Like two writers for one book. Because we know that every author have like a different creative process and so. So my first question is for Jennifer, because I know this is the first time that you are collaborating with another writer, right?
Yes.
And so how do you feel about it?
It was so exciting, and it was a little nerve-wracking because David is one of my literary heroes. And I had this, my first reaction to the fact that we were doing something like this together was, oh my God, this is amazing. And my second was, oh God, don't mess this up. So it was really exciting, and it was also very challenging in a really good way, because I think we surprised each other sometimes along the way with what we wrote, and that was really fun. And it felt like I felt like it raised my game even more as a writer, and that just that was very special.
Awesome. And David, we know that this is not your first time. You have wrote books with even John Green. We totally love him around here. But can you tell us how was the experience working with Jennifer this time? I know, because I read somewhere that you were really excited and really looking forward to work with Jennifer. But how was it at the end?
I mean, great. I think every collaboration is different, and this one was very different from ones I had done before, because, as you said, basically the book is Bea and Ezra, brother and sister, emailing to each other. And that's basically what Jennifer and I were doing as well. We did not plan out the book ahead of time. We did not know the twists and turns or anything that was going to happen, we would discover the story by sending the story to each other. And in every other collaboration I've done, the characters are in the same place, or if they don't start out in the same place in Will Grayson, they end up in the same place. This was the first time I had ever written a book where truly the entire relationship between the characters had to be through their words. That there was not going to be any time, this isn't a spoiler, where Bea and Ezra were going to be able to sit down at a coffee shop over a table and have a conversation. They really had to have all of their conversations in what they wrote to each other. And that was completely different and very intense. And the fact that Jennifer and I did not really know each other very well at the start actually helped us, because when I write a book with Rachel at this point, we've written 6 books together. I kind of know the way her mind works. So I can sort of see what might be coming, and she sees what's coming with me. With Jennifer, I did not know what was coming. And there are definitely moments in the book where you can see that I did not know what was coming. And that just works really beautifully. So it was really, I mean, again, I think the word Jeffries was exciting. It was just exciting because I genuinely did not know what was going to happen to the characters until we figured it out together.
Well, that's awesome. And now that you talk about the subject of the book, how you made the decision to talk about this subject, I'm going to say the book talks about abuse at home. Bea and Ezra, they are suffering of that because of the stepfather and the mother that doesn't do anything about it, basically. That's why Bea decides to run away in the first time. This is not a spoiler. This happens from the beginning. So you, how do you came with that idea? It was clear you're telling that it wasn't like clear from the beginning, or the idea was coming through emails between you two? How was it?
I mean, I started the books since I wrote the first chapter, or the first email series, and basically the premise that I thought would be interesting to explore was the idea of this boy waking up one morning, going down to the kitchen table, and then hearing his mother yell and discovering that his sister had disappeared, had run away, and that she left him. Again, this isn't a spoiler, it's in the first chapter. She leaves him an email address so he can write to her in emergencies, which of course he immediately writes to her. But he's like stuck with them. And you can tell from the first chapter that from the reaction they have to Bea being gone, that this is not a loving family, that this is a very angry, hostile family. So I did establish that, but I made sure that I did not establish why Bea left. That was really going to be up to Jennifer. And so I ended my first part with him being like, what's going on? Why did you leave? And I knew that was not my question to answer. That was Jennifer's. And so she took the baton.
No pressure at all.
Yeah.
And, as David said, we never discussed the book. We didn't discuss the plot with each other. And so we were surprised whenever I received, chapters from David. This was like the first time I was finding out what was going to happen, just like he finds out what Ezra is doing and vice versa. And I think that, because David had established what their home life was like, we knew the kind of territory we were getting into. David and I are very fortunate in that we grew up in very loving households. We do have people who are close to us who did not. And, that was something that we were able to kind of, we always want to be as empathetic and as honest and as responsible as possible when writing these kinds of subjects that David and I tend to write about in our books. And this was certainly no exception. But it was David sent this chapter out of the blue, and I just had no choice but to go along. I mean, what do you do if David Levithan sends you a chapter and says, maybe we could write a book together? You say yes.
Yeah, of course. So you're telling me that you just went along with the emails. I mean, you never stopped like to talk about, okay, what is going to happen next. You just went along with the emails until the end.
Yes.
That's really interesting. That's a really interesting way to do it, because sometimes writers they're so like they know in which chapter something is gonna happen and how it's gonna end. When do you know that that was the end of the book? Doing it like that.
It was, that was something I think we just knew instinctively. I think we did exchange an email to say, I think we probably have about 50 more pages until the end. I think we just knew the way it was shaping up that it was close to the end. I didn't know, and I don't know that David did either, how it was going to end exactly. I think there was one point early in the book when I tried to see if they were going to ever be in the same place. So, and this is not a spoiler either, but Bea says to Ezra, okay, come meet me here. And he said no. So then I knew that we were doing it strictly emails, which, as David said, it was this wonderful challenge to do. And I'd always wanted to write a book, in that form. And so had David. So I think in terms of, the ending, it's not something we thought about really ahead of time, but we kind of came to a natural ending as we wrote.
Awesome. Now I'm liking more the book. I think that it's a really good exercise actually as a writer to do it that way. Talking about the subject, I found it very accurate. The representation of young people that suffers like abuse, any person actually that suffer abuse, Bea and Ezra, they show it really well. And I'm pretty sure you talk about that you knew people close to you that unfortunately live in families like that. So can you talk about a little bit about it? How do you research about it? How do you talk about this subject?
I think that David and I certainly are no stranger to writing about issues that impact teens. And we always write with great, hopefully, empathy and understanding, honesty, responsibility. And I think it's also really important, especially if you haven't lived the experience you're writing about, to do your due diligence and to research as much as possible. Put it in the hands of experts in the field. Put it in the hands of readers who have gone through similar things. So I think that was as we were writing, and then after we finished the book, we tried to do that. To talk to people who had gone through similar experiences and journeys, and then put it in the hands of readers also who had done the same.
Yeah, and I think, when you talk about sort of how we knew when we were getting the ending and sort of why we were doing this, I think if you look separately at Jennifer's books and at my books, I think you would say a common theme is taking characters from the hard place to the better place. And I think that we didn't even have to talk about it because it's who we are. It's what our books are. So I think we knew from the get-go that we were not going to leave Bea and Ezra in the same position that they started. Again, it could get worse before it gets better, but at the same time, we knew the whole point in writing about an experience that's hard when you're a YA novelist is to show your readers and take your characters to that better place. And how do you navigate to get there? And I think what was really interesting for us with this book is also acknowledging that no two people's experience, even when they live in the same house, is the same. That Bea and Ezra, they're living with the same mother and stepfather. They are close in age, although not twins. But their experience in that house, while both of them had bad negative experiences, they were different, and they each have different ways of processing it. They have different ways of interpreting it. They have different ways of dealing with it. And I think that, in my mind, what the book is about is that they have been helping each other, but they haven't really been talking about how they deal with it this whole time. And it actually takes me leaving for them to finally sort of say, this is what I've been experiencing. This is what I've been experiencing. And it is by sharing that they actually can get to that better place.
That part actually hit close to me because until you leave home is that you realize there are some things that they weren't actually good, and it takes like a lot of distance to get to notice. There is actually one part when Ezra is talking with his mom. That was hard for me to read because that confrontation and to see like the state of mind of their mom. Was there any part that was harder to write than others for each of you?
I mean, I'll jump in because that's the scene where Ezra talks to the mom was the hardest scene for me to write, because again, in order to write it effectively, you really do have to try to understand both parts of the conversation. And the mother is not somebody who shares a worldview that I share, but I really wanted to get her right. I wanted to step inside her shoes and try to give her as much empathy and try to understand why she was the way she was in order to really make it feel real, because it wouldn't have felt real if you have bad guys and good guys, and you feel that like somebody is not as dimensional as the other. So as Jennifer can attest, like that was the scene that I wrote and rewrote and tinkered with until they basically pulled the book out of our hands. Again, they just wanted every word to be right. So that to me was easily the hardest, was trying to see not just through Ezra's eyes, but through the eyes of the person who is one of the causes of what he's been going through.
And I think for me, I think it was writing from Bea's perspective when she is feeling the most alone, and she's also feeling incredibly guilty for leaving her brother behind, especially in that situation, that home situation, and she feels just at her lowest. And I think too, I had to figure out how to dig into Bea, because she does leave her little brother behind in this situation, and that's right, just looking at it that way, it's not the most sympathetic position for her to be in. But I really had to dig into her inner turmoil about that, and then also her survival mode to take care of herself and try to figure out where she belonged. So I think all of that was, and I think in terms of, it's interesting as David's talking about that scene, I think the hardest scene for me to read in the book was the one that he wrote so beautifully between Ezra and the mother, because I think by then I felt like Bea, and I felt like I was seeing this whole side that I didn't know, the mom had to her.
Yeah, and actually talking about the mom, there was a point that it was so hard for me, like to think of her like a villain, because when you read what she's saying, it's like, well, maybe she was in a good spot. I think there is a point when they say like the parents, the grandparents per se, they weren't good enough, because father says like, let's not be like our parents, right? So it was really hard because I was so angry at her, and at the same time I was like, but she has reasons maybe, but no, they're your children. Why are you doing that? Yeah, it was really hard to hear that part, because I was hearing like the audiobook, and narrators, they give a plus with the sentiment that how they read, and I was like, oh, like with the knot in my throat, like, oh my god, that's so hard. But well, talking about the process about writing, what do you think is the most valuable contribution that each other's styles brought to the story?
My goodness. Well, I will say one of the biggest compliments I have heard about the story is when people don't know that I strictly wrote Bea and David strictly wrote Ezra, and then they've said, "Oh God, your voices are so seamless. I didn't know who was writing what." And then when I've said, "Well, I wrote Bea and David wrote Ezra," they're like, "Oh my God, there were parts of Ezra that I thought you wrote and parts of Bea that I thought David wrote." And that's a huge compliment because you don't know, how your voices will work together. But I was just, David is such a consummate professional. At the same time, he's got this wonderful, enormous well of empathy, and he's just a beautiful writer. And I feel like our words did mesh well. And I also feel like our ideas meshed well too, especially because we didn't talk about it. I can't say that enough. I've never written a book like that before. Not plotting anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also what I think is really interesting, and again, I think this speaks to how we are on the same wavelength, is I also am very proud of the pacing of the book, in that we instinctively knew sort of how much to give and then to pass it over to the next person. Because sort of when you're doing it by chapters, it's almost easy, okay, it's 15, 20 pages. This chapter should probably be over. I need to pass it over. But with the emails, there's some times where we send each other, I would send Jennifer 15 pages and she might send me 3 pages back, or I might send 10 pages, but that's actually in 5 different emails. Like, we just knew, and we never had to talk about it. I don't think a single time that we had to be like, I think you went too far, or I think you went too much. I will say, both of us suck at time zones. We're really, trying to figure out, that was the one, if I could do it all over again, I would have had asked for Bea to run away in the same time zone, because we kept trying to date the emails and being like, oh, it's Monday morning, but it's really Sunday night for Ezra. That was the thing.
We should have, David, actually done extra bonus content at the end of the book and included our emails back and forth about time zones.
Yeah.
I think this is the morning now. We were just really,
oh my God.
That of everything we did, we paced everything beautifully, but that was the thing that we actually were like, okay, time to turn on math brain and try to figure this one out.
Oh no. Yeah.
There is actually a web page that is time zone converter. Maybe that will help you.
God, now we know.
Yeah, now for the next time, for the next book. And you were saying that I assumed that Jennifer was writing Bea's perspective and David Ezra perspective, but what they say is true. You never feel like, they have their own voice, but as in style, it doesn't feel like these are 2 different writers or something like that. It doesn't. It's really well done. So as you have been telling me about the process, so there was no time where you tried to make inputs about the other's email. Like Jennifer saying hey, David, maybe you should say or write about this. Did that happen at some point?
No, I think we had maybe 2 instances when we were actually editing the book where we said, oh, maybe we'll put something here, or maybe we'll add a line here. But in terms of, as David said, I was also really proud of the pacing, because I thought that, we covered so much. And I feel like the draft we turned in to Random House was pretty clean, actually.
Yeah, I can't think of any time where we asked the other one to do something or set something up or not to do something. Which sometimes, again, in my other collaborations, there have been a couple of times where I've been like, oh, could you please not do that? Or, oh, here's what I'm setting up. If you're confused by this is where it's going. we didn't do that at all. And again, we're going to be very good about spoilers and not do any spoilers, but I will say that most of the things that could be spoiled are curveballs that Jennifer threw my way. Like, what? I mean, it's very funny. And again, I will not say, there is one twist that, like, I was like, oh my goodness. And one of my best friends just read the book, loved it very much. And he was just like, well, you did see that coming, right, David? And I was like, no, he's like, no, you knew what Bea was. I genuinely had no idea. And he was just trying to make me retroactively confess that I had suspected it all along. And I was like, I cannot tell you how oblivious I was to this twist. So that was, I felt, a good measure of how in our characters' heads we were, because I wasn't, and I think this is one of the secrets to a successful collaboration, is I wasn't trying to think too much about it. And I wasn't trying to sort of be like, what is she trying to do here? And, oh, maybe she's going this way or that way. Like, I was like, what's on the page is on the page, and we'll see where it goes when she writes back to me. And I think that makes it, you're writing so in the moment with the character that comes across very, very truthfully, because that is how you're feeling.
Yeah. Well, that sounds pretty, like, exciting, you know, like you were writing and reading a book at the same time. You didn't know what was going to happen. I'm curious now about that twist. Now you have to tell me later. Well, I'm trying to remember what happened, because Bea did a lot of things that I was like, what? But now I need to know that twist that get to. So later, you'll tell me later, because I don't want to spoil anything, because this is a really good book. I really want people to read it. And well, as continuing with the questions, can you tell me what was the best experience of writing this book together? I mean, like something, a fact, I don't know, something that was like, wow, this is so cool.
I think that, just having this be my first collaboration like this, I mean, I have done some film and TV work, and I'm used to that being collaborative, but, my book work is where I go off by myself and write. And so it was just, it was very special getting to do that for the first time with someone I admire so much. And David knows this. He was the first person I did an event with for All the Bright Places. And so when I began my young adult career, David was the very first person who was there, and I did an event with, and I've never forgotten that. And I think that it was the way we kept each other on our toes. And he didn't ever allow me, not that I ever try to do this in my books, but he never let me, off the hook or be lazy or any of that. I mean, he always kept me on my toes throughout the whole process. And I think just also creating these two characters together who I just feel so strongly about. I love Ezra and Bea, and I can't believe there was ever a world that they didn't exist in.
Yeah, and I think, to me, just like the magic of a collaboration, and it truly does feel like magic, is that if I read the book now, and again, I love the story, but there are also like passages that I love that I wrote or that Jennifer wrote, and I just am like, I never would have gotten to any of them if I had tried to write this book alone. Like, there's no way. Like, the story could only exist by the energy passing back and forth between me and Jennifer. And that is always a marvel to me, because I don't believe that, like, you have these stories that are inside you that are fully formed, and it's arbitrary who they come out with or how they come out. Like, I feel the thing about collaboration is, in so many different ways, both on a sentence level and also on a story level, it will push you to do things and to discover things that you never, ever would have on your own. And I feel this book is so astonishing. That is so astonishingly true to me for that book, that even sentences that, again, wouldn't have been out of place in one of Jennifer's other novels or one of my other novels, we still would have never gotten to them if we did not have Bea and Ezra to take us there. And I love that so much.
Awesome. And as for the names, do you have any problem choosing the names, like for the title and for the characters?
I mean, it's really funny. I'm like, where did Ezra? Honestly, Ezra is one of my favorite names, and
I love that name for the actor.
And at this point, like having written so many books, I was astonished that I had never written a character named Ezra before, a main character named Ezra before. So glad to it was almost like I was saving it for this book. And yeah, I generally Bea. Ned, did you gave me Bea, right?
I think so. I think
I asked you what her name should be, right? Yeah.
I think so. And I said, and I don't know why, but I liked the shortening of it, and it's short for Beatrix, which I think I probably got from Harry Potter, but I'd never written, a character with that name before. And I like the old fashioned sound of it. And I don't know, it seemed to go with Ezra really well.
Yeah, it was really good names. I love Ezra name and Beatrix. I thought it's really a strong name. Well, and there is this is a spoiler, but the other thing as well was good. I mean, the play that you did with the names, I really liked it. And well, will you do it again? Will you write a book together if there is a chance?
Totally.
Yeah.
I don't think I would go back to Bea and Ez. I think I like where we've left them. And I don't think if Jennifer and I ever wrote a book again, we would do a brother and sister emailing to each other. I feel we've done that. I think it would be something so completely different. And one of us would come to the other and be like, all right, here's a challenge. Let's try to do this. And okay, sure, let's do it. So.
Yes. And I hope we would do it again, David, without ever talking about it.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Well, maybe something like with romance. I was surprised because I know Jennifer's books, and I have read about David's books, and there is always the romance factor, and there is none, a little bit maybe, but it's not the main thing. Romance is not the main thing. Was that a challenge for any of you?
No, I think it was just, I can speak for myself. I don't think it was. It was kind of nice to just be doing something very different from what I normally write. I think that, the thing that's consistent with my books, my former books, and with David's former books is that, we're writing about love. It's still a love story. It just happens to be a different kind of story. It's the love between siblings instead of romantic love. And but I do love writing romances, and I'm quite good at it himself. So
yes.
Yeah, I literally, this is why we write books together. Literally, Jennifer, almost word for word, gave my answer. I was like, it's a love story. And I was like, okay, she's already saying my answer. Okay, that's good. It's true. It didn't. And again, I think again, Ezra has a boyfriend who is there for him. But again, I think it is extremely realistic to say that again, the situation that Bea and Ezra is in is not going to be solved by finding the right person to date. That helps to have somebody in your corner is amazing, but they are in the corner. They're not the one who is going to solve anything for you, and you have to take your life into your own hands. So I think it wouldn't have felt true to the resolution of the story if romance was the answer to what Bea and Ez are going through. But certainly we wanted to acknowledge that having support, and again, in many, many, many different forms, is crucial to helping out.
Yeah, I really love that actually, because in the past we had so many books talking about how that romantic love was gonna save your life, basically. And now that we are adults, we know that doesn't happen that way. That's not healthy. And so I'm really glad that both of you are doing books like this one, where, as you say, we talk about different kinds of love and actually different kinds of showing love. There's not always like with, I don't know, cuddles and loving words. Is with support as well. And I really like that. So that's why I think that this is a precious book that the teens should read now. I mean, like a different, more healthier kind of love. So I know that at the beginning of the book there is a part of a lyric. Is, as far as you take me, that's where I believe, the Smashing Pumpkins. So if you have to choose a song that is not this one as the soundtrack of the book, which one will be?
Oh, that's such a good question.
It is. Oh my gosh. That's hard, but I'm trying to think, because I usually make playlists for books, and I definitely have one for Bea. But David, if you have an answer, please.
I'm going with first thought, best thought. I would go with Sarah McLachlan's "Hold On," just because like the lyric "Hold on to yourself. This one's gonna hurt like hell." Like I think that speaks so clearly to sort of any experience where you're just like, the only way out is through. And again, that song is so beautiful because it is Sarah McLachlan singing to somebody else, saying, "Hold on to yourself. This one's going to hurt like hell." So you know that there is actually, to use the metaphor I just used, somebody in their corner. And it's not just about the person alone breaking through. It is also about the singer saying, "I see you. I'm here for you. I know that you have to do this. And we're going to get through this." So that is the first song that popped into my head. So I'll go with that one.
Oh, I'd like to go with that one too. That's amazing. It makes me want to cry, David, just thinking about that song in reference to the book.
Okay, so we have "Hold On" as a soundtrack. We will really like to see that playlist, actually, that you have there. Well, one question. Well, this is not a question, actually. I would like you to give, any advice. Well, one advice to any young person suffering a similar situation to Bea and Ezra. What advice would you give them?
I mean, I think it is. I mean, again, if you can find support in your life, be open to it. If you trust people to tell them what was happening to you, do that. If there isn't a safe space within your life, then that is where look up your local hotline. There are plenty of organizations on the web that you can go to and talk to somebody anonymously, talk to somebody who doesn't know you but still has been trained to help people who are in your situation. There's at this point with technology, there's always access to get help. Again, I think it is certainly stronger if it is somebody you know and who knows you, but we have to acknowledge that that's not always not every Ezra has a Bea, and not every Bea has an Ezra. So I think it is trying to do that and not trying to solve it all on your own, or giving into it and saying it's not solvable and I just have to live with this for as long as it takes. Because there again, to reiterate the theme, I think there is always a route from the hard place to the better place. And oftentimes, especially for teenagers, it's just about finding where that path is, or finding the people who can help you find that path. So that's what I would say is find the people who will help you find that path. And that's the way to be on it.
And we have resources in the back of the book for just, for people who are struggling by themselves, because as David says, no one should have to struggle alone. And so we did include some resources in the back of the book as well.
Yeah, I'm reading it right now. There's actually like hotlines, websites, Instagram, social media pages that people can reach. I found that really like touching. Like, yeah, that's so important, because I'm pretty sure that there is gonna be young people that is gonna read this, and it's going to feel like relatable with some things. Maybe not at the same level, but at some levels, they will find that there are things that they're not okay. Because sometimes when you are in that circle of violence, you don't notice. And it happens to be at some point when she is like running away and people is being nice to her, and she's like amazed about that, and her like, oh girl, like I wanted to hug her, and like, everything's gonna be okay. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for doing that as well. I think that says a lot about you as persons. I really appreciate what you have done with this story, and I really like it. I hope that you do it again. I don't know if you will do it again. What subject will you choose? But I don't know. Any ideas? What would you like to write about together?
Oh my goodness.
Next time.
I don't know, but I just, my brain is spinning. And David and I haven't even discussed this because, of course, we never discuss anything related to the books.
I think, again, let's go with first thought, best thought. And then if it ends up happening, so you can say that you were here at the creation. You'll be like, oh, that's all because I asked that question. And David spontaneously answered, and Jennifer was like, oh, that's interesting. Looking at, again, collaborations we haven't done before, I think one thing that Jennifer and I both love is actually recent history. And especially like old Hollywood glamour and like yesteryear. And I think, again, it would be fun because I think it is something that we both have a shared interest in. I would think it would be fun if we collaborated again, if we, again, went the not easy route, the thing that requires research. And again, Jennifer has a massive advantage on me here because she's actually written books of nonfiction and written stories where she's researched it and actually done a lot of world building of recreating old worlds, whereas I just make things up in my head set in the present. So I would definitely be leaning on her for this, but I think it would be actually fun to travel back in time together and tell a story that wasn't contemporary and was in fact in a time and a place that we both loved.
Oh my God, I would love that.
Yes, please do it. Yes, please make it possible. That sounds so good. Oh, well, this is one of my favorite questions. I want you to recommend 3 books, each of you, to young people. Which ones?
Oh my goodness. I would say Jeff Zentner's In the Wild Light. It's absolutely beautiful in every way. There's so many. Oh my goodness. I love Julie Murphy's Faith books. She has a new one that came out today. I love her heroine is just amazing and inspiring and fierce and incredible. There's so many. I could show you like my stack.
Right, look at your shelf quickly. I can jump in. Again, going first thought, best thought, some books I've loved in the past year or two. Case and Callender's Felix Ever After is extraordinary. This amazing trans story of identity and love. It's great. I will read anything that A.S. King writes, but her book Dig, which won the Prince Award last year, has stayed with me and has become even more relevant than ever about sort of white people in America and sort of the damage that they create, but also the ways that they can fix that. So that was really, and to see a novel address that was pretty incredible. Jeff Zentner's book is one of the best ones that I've read lately. So that, and then I'll go with another one that's done an event lately. I will also say Kathleen Glasgow's new book, is really effective in talking about a family that is grappling with a son who has an opioid addiction. And it's a very interesting complement to our book, because both books are about families with a son and a daughter where things are going wrong, but approaching it in completely different ways as far as who is an actual caring individual. And sort of in our book, it is about sort of finding freedom from your parents in order to express yourselves and find the better place, whereas Kathleen's book really is about the family having to come together to try to grapple with what is going on.
Awesome. Thank you for your recommendations. I will look for it. Okay, so I think that we are reaching like the end of the interview. There was just one question, but I don't know if this is up to you to answer. It's about if the books has an edition in Spanish, or it's going to have one edition in Spanish. I don't know if you have any news about it.
Believe so. I might be able to pull up our list so far.
Yeah, if there wasn't one plan, we will work very hard to get one.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes, please. Yes, we have, well, both of your books we have some of them here in Spanish. So we would really like it to have this one as well in Spanish. There is a lot of people. Yeah, there's a lot of people that read in English, but we always appreciate a book in Spanish. So that way more people can read it.
Yes, as David says, if there isn't one on the way already, we will make sure we inquire about that and express how much we would love that to happen.
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, so, well, once again, thank you so much for your time, for making time for this interview. We are really excited. As I expressed before, I think that the pandemic was really like chaotic for everyone, but it made us like reach people other way and getting closer and instead of everything. I mean, I think these kind of interviews were impossible before because we weren't like, oh, we can do it this way. And I love it that we can do it now. And I hope to have you again soon, sometime in the future, to have you in presence here in Guatemala.
Here's to traveling.
Yes, that would be incredible.
We will love to have you here both and to hear about more books. I hope you write many, many more books. You two are amazing doing it. I really love how you touch so many subjects. It feels so realistic and you can feel what the character is going through. And that's why I always recommend them. So thank you so much again. Thank you, everybody. Thank you much, everybody that was here commenting and really like feeling the interview. Thank you so much, and hope you have a really great night.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.